Hello out there in YouTube video land. I'm creating this video as a human service to warn people about a clinician, a psychiatric nurse practitioner who I have dealt with for 17 years. And her name is Catherine Blake, B-L-A-K-E. She has an office located at 55 Pleasant Street in Newburyport, Massachusetts. Now, I am creating this video because I have had so many problems with her, and it is my obligation to humanity to enlighten the world about the dangers that this lady poses to her patients, specifically those who she prescribes medications for.
It's 3 o'clock.
Now, I began seeing her in 1995. Okay, so that was actually about 17 and a half years ago as I make this video. And I suppose one of the very first warning signs, danger signs of what was to come in the future, I mean, literally upon meeting her, and I was discussing the medications that I was already taking for about 4 years. And she said to me, she goes, well, in my opinion, you are severely under-medicated. Okay? Now, I did not appreciate hearing that one fucking bit at all. Okay? I mean, for somebody to walk into your home, and I will tell you, she actually saw me at home because I have difficulty getting out into the world. I mean, but for somebody to say, to come right out with that kind of comment, I mean, shortly upon meeting you, telling you that you are severely under-medicated, that took a hell of a lot of nerve, and so, like I said, that was the first warning sign that I obviously knew that she was an advocate of medication. And to tell you the truth, as the months turned into years, she was just all too insistent in trying to get me to try this medication, and then if that didn't work, oh, try this one, and that didn't work, oh, we'll try another one, and then we'd try swapping to a different class of medication. Oh, well, you got to try this one, and in retrospect, what was going on was I was being treated like a guinea pig or a lab rat. So, anyway, so what happened was, about 4 years later, in 1999, I was very sleep deprived. And, I mean, I hadn't slept much in about 4 or 5 years, okay? And I was in rough shape at the time, okay? And so I was going downhill, and I alerted her to this, as to how I was feeling. So she came, paid me a visit, and she had recommended and suggested that I start on a specific type of drug. I'm not in the position to disclose the name or type of the medication that she was talking about, but I had no knowledge or experience of the class of medications, and it was a relatively new medication, and I had never even heard of it in my life. until she mentioned it that day. That was September of 1999. So what happened was, she prescribed it, and I will admit to you, much to my surprise, almost as soon as I started taking it, I started sleeping great. And what I realized was, not only had I been sleep deprived for 4+ years, but I was also deprived of REM sleep, rapid eye movement. I obviously had not been dreaming much at all, and as you know, if you don't enter REM sleep, you basically can't function. Okay? So for the first time in years, I was starting to get some appreciable sleep, and things were looking up. Well, about 2 years later, in 2001, I very, very slowly started to notice some weird side effects, or just some weird sensations happening to me. And I didn't know what to make of them, and I couldn't understand why they were happening or where they were coming from. So there were three in particular that come to mind. Very, very slowly, I began to find myself stuttering with my speech. I would be speaking to people. I could be speaking with her, the nurse practitioner, or I could be speaking to people on the phone, and I would just start stammering and stuttering. I could not complete sentences, and I would get all tongue-tied, and I couldn't understand why this was happening to me. And like I said, she observed this firsthand. Okay? Now, a couple other things that I also experienced were, I had a little bit of tingling and numbness that might come and go. And I also experienced what I refer to as sleep apnea attacks. Okay? This would happen maybe only a couple times a year. Okay? But again, all these things started to happen, in 2001. And as far as the sleep apnea attacks go, I would wake up during the night and find myself, basically in respiratory arrest. And I kind of felt like half dead, halfway to dying. I would be, my breathing, my whole respiratory system would be shut down. I would not be breathing. I would be disoriented, likely due to oxygen deprivation, and as I said, with my respiratory system shut down, I would have to consciously tell myself, inhale, you need to inhale and breathe in order to restart the respiratory system and process. And needless to say, it was a frightening experience, especially the first time, and anyway. So I would like to fast forward as the years went by. Again, I was having these sleep apnea attacks. They were starting to become a little more frequent in nature. The stuttering. I can tell you by the time we got to 2004, 2005, I had gone from a fluent, eloquent speaker to somebody who could barely speak in complete sentences. Okay? Hearing me now, you would never know that I stuttered so badly. Okay? And like I said, Catherine Blake observed this firsthand. Okay? Not only in person during appointments, but also on the phone. Okay? And she never said anything. I can remember having appointments, and I would have such extreme difficulty speaking and trying to convey what was on my mind, and I would just say to her, and you can probably hear a little bit of stuttering now and then as I talk to you now. But I remember saying to her, it's like, I don't understand why the stuttering is happening, and I would apologize for not being able to speak clearly, and she would just kind of ha ha ha, just kind of laugh it off, as if it was some kind of joke. And so anyway, I want to go forward to the spring of 2007. Okay, now one night I woke up to find my entire right side, my leg, my arm, my head, my face, all totally numb. Similar to the kind of numbness you get from a Novocaine when you go to a dentist. Okay? I mean, we're talking major numbness. Now, people, we all know you do not have to be a doctor, a nurse practitioner, a clinician, a rocket scientist, a genius to know when half your body goes numb, something is very, very wrong. Okay? Now, I informed her of this numbness episode that I experienced during my next regularly scheduled visit, and all she said was, well, what did my primary care physician say? Okay? And had I been to a neurologist? Had I seen a neurologist? Now, she knows. At that point, I'd been seeing her, 12 years? Now, she knew damn well, okay, I don't go out into the world. I don't go to doctor's offices. I don't do hospitals, okay? I don't venture out into stores, okay? Okay, I'm agoraphobic. She knows that. Now, if she would pull her head out of her ass for once in her life, maybe things could have been a hell of a lot better and turned out better. So like I said, all she said was, what did the primary care doctor think? And had I been to see a neurologist? But what really burns my ass about this is, now, did she do any investigation on her own part into this event? I mean, did she do any research into the medication I was taking? No. Did she consult with her supervising doctor and inform him about what happened to me? Again, the answer is no. Did she pull me off of this medication? Again, the answer is no. So, you gotta, say to yourself, what the hell is going on with her? Okay? Now, as a result of having this major numbness episode in the spring of 2007, I began retracing my footsteps in history, and then I realized I never had these neurological problems and side effects prior to taking this drug. Okay? So I informed her of this theory I came up with. I said, look, I think this drug is screwing around with my brain and adversely affecting me neurologically. And she totally dismissed it. She's the type of narcissistic bitch and cunt, pardon my language, who is up on her high horse, and she views somebody as me who doesn't know shit, okay, as to what I'm talking about. And I also informed her that, if a day ever came when I could, clinically and medically prove this theory of mine, that this drug has been screwing around with me neurologically and causing, damage, possibly irreversible damage, I told her I would legally go after the pharmaceutical manufacturer of this drug. Okay? And I told her this a few times, both my theory and my legal intention. And I told her this in 2007, 2008, 2009, and every time I said that to her, she would totally zip and clam up. Okay? Because again, She's the type that she clearly thinks I don't know shit. Okay? That I don't know what I'm talking about. Or for that matter, that I am not in the financial position to afford a kick-ass legal team, okay, to go after the pharmaceutical company. Now, so again, my theory and my complaints were just not being taken seriously. Now, by 2010, I realized that this was the equivalent of talking to a brick wall. Okay? I could not get through to her. All right? And all this time, specifically the sleep apnea was getting worse. Okay? And so what happened was, in the beginning of 2012, now my sleep apnea attacks were getting so bad that they were happening roughly 3 times a week. Now remember, when they first started back in 2001, they might only happen 3 times a year, but now it's happening 3 times a week. Okay, so in effect, that is an increase in magnitude by 52 times. Okay, so like I said, in January of this year, it got to the point I just knew I had to get off of this drug. Okay, and so I made the decision on my own without telling her. Okay, and I very, very slowly began the weaning off process. Now, first, let me say, within about within a month, maybe even like only 3 weeks, my sleep apnea attacks, they went from happening, like I said, like a few times a week to almost nothing at all. Okay, it's like they almost vanished completely. And so now I had some proof to prove my theory that I came up with in 2007. That this drug was screwing around with me neurologically. And upon doing further research, you see, what this drug was doing was, it was obviously affecting the part of the nervous system that controls and regulates the breathing process and the respiratory process while you're asleep, and that allows you to sleep. And so, in effect, this drug was shutting down that portion of the nervous system and sending me into respiratory arrest while I was asleep. Okay? So, so it's the type of medication, like I said, you have to go extremely at a slow pace of getting off of this stuff. And then I was doing great, I was, like I said, the sleep apnea was a few times a week. Now it was maybe once or twice a month. That was a dramatic improvement. Okay. So, in April, during my next appointment with her, I began to tell her that, how I had been in the weaning off process. I made the decision to do this, and I proved my theory that it was causing the sleep apnea attacks. Well, she responds by saying, "When you say sleep apnea attacks, what exactly do you mean by that?" And I'm thinking to myself, "Oh shit, here we go again. She's going to use the Alzheimer's defense." And believe me, I can't tell you how many hundreds of times I've put up with this bullshit excuse of hers over the past 17 years. Okay? So she didn't understand that. And then I went on to say, how this situation with dealing with this medication had been mismanaged. I like that word, mismanaged, because using that word, I was just being polite. That was my polite way of saying to her, lady, you fucked up. Okay? You fucked up, lady. And then, so when she claimed she did not understand what I meant by sleep apnea, and then I said, well, this drug has been causing, these neurological side effects, that you have observed and that I've told you about, especially in 2007. And she responds by saying to me, she says, and she kind of gives me a very spaced out, dazed, cold stare. She says, and I will never forget this moment as long as I live. She says, you never told me you were experiencing neurological side effects. When I heard that, when she said that to me, you know what? In retrospect, I'm kind of surprised that I didn't grab her by the fucking throat and toss her headfirst through my sliding glass door. I mean, she fucked up. And here she is using her goddamn Alzheimer's excuse again. And everything I brought up for discussion, she totally twisted the facts. Okay, and she made me look like the guilty party, and for her to look squeaky clean, and to come out of this situation smelling like roses, and that burned my ass. Okay, and I just it's incredible when you think about the level of irresponsibility that goes on here. So. I'm just going to have a sip of water if you don't mind. So anyway, I said to her, that I was looking for a replacement, and that she mismanaged this situation. And, and like I said, I mean, she totally... she totally distorted the situation, like I said, by making me look like the guilty party for not seeing her as often as like other patients do. And the reason I see her infrequently is because I have known for years, okay, I mean, this lady doesn't know shit. I mean, she's been in business for decades, but when it comes to medications, that's the problem. She doesn't know what she's doing, okay? And that's why I'm creating this video. Now also, she went on to say how, first of all, let me just tell you how I said to her, I said, look, when I had that major numbness episode in 2007, I said to her, that should have been a red flag warning to you, okay, that something was seriously wrong, and I informed you, about this theory. And she didn't say anything, but I could just see from her facial expression, she didn't have a fucking clue what I was talking about. She didn't remember that major numbness episode. See? And, and then I was going back to 1999 of when I started on this particular medication. And she's, oh God, I wish I had a camera rolling during that appointment. She says to me, she goes, well, you came to me, and get this, she says that I specifically requested by name to be put on this drug. Okay? Now, that was a total fucking lie. And if you're watching this, Catherine Blake, shame on you. Okay? What happened was, I informed her of my symptoms, and she's the one who came to me, and she said, based upon my symptoms, I want to start you on this drug. Okay? Like I said, I had never even heard of this the name of this drug in my life. So how in God's name could have I specifically requested this drug by name back in 1999? Okay? You see, again, this is just another manipulative example of how she was twisting history and twisting the facts to make me look guilty as shit. Okay? And, so anyway, it goes without saying that appointment was the most horrific appointment I ever had in my life with her. Okay? Well, about a week later, after that appointment, I started having a variety of new symptoms between insomnia, and I was breaking out in sweats, and I was having like nausea, and I was getting a bunch of like tingling or numbness, like on through various parts of my body. It might be on my left side, then it might jump to my right side, and it was that numbness and tingling that really, really got me concerned, because I was afraid that, am I going to have some kind of neurological episode? Am I going to have a stroke? I don't know. So what I did was I started doing some research into this particular medication, and I stumbled upon withdrawal side effects, what people experience when coming off of this drug. And the more I looked at it, I was like, oh my God, this is what's happening to me. So I really got nervous. See, I had no idea that this was going to happen to me. I just thought, I would take my sweet time, going very, very slowly off of this drug, and hopefully in a few months' time, I'd be free and clear of it. Okay? And at that time, 3 months into this withdrawal process, I was basically down to like only 5 to 10% of what I had been taking for the prior 12 and a half years. Okay, so I was almost off of it. So I'm now experiencing withdrawal side effects. So I pick up the phone and call her, okay, to advise her of what's going on, and I needed advice. I needed to know what to do. And now, if you already haven't detected a strong amount of negligence and incompetence on her part, it gets worse. So, like I said, I'm asking her what to do, and she responds to me by saying, she says, well, I've only had limited experience in prescribing this medication, but I don't have any experience weaning people off of it. So that was her answer as to what I'm supposed to do. Okay? Now, how fucking irresponsible is that? Her license to prescribe should be ripped up in shreds and revoked permanently. That just, again, the level of irresponsibility, that just blew my mind. Oh, I don't have any experience in taking people off of it. So of course, think about this now. She has the legal medical authority to write prescriptions for these. This medication, the class of it's extremely dangerous, and it's potentially lethal. Okay, it's potentially deadly. She has the authority to write prescriptions for this stuff, but yet she does not feel responsible, and she doesn't feel it's part of her job description to know what is involved in when the time comes, if a patient wants or needs to come off of it. It's not her responsibility to know. Oh boy, that is, that says a lot about not only her as a clinician, but the whole field of medicine itself, and that branch of medicine. That's a disgrace. Okay. So anyway, I just said, well, I guess I'll just have to slowly increase the dose, and she agreed to that. And so fortunately, in about a week or so of doing that, the withdrawal side effects began to subside. So that was good on that regard. But interestingly enough, as I began increasing the dose again, the sleep apnea returned. Okay, so this is the second time now where I've had increased dosages of this drug, and the sleep apnea kicks right in. See, so that confirms what I've been saying all along. And anyway, let me take a break here, and I'll get right back to you. Okay, well, we're back here, and continuing on with my story here. Almost finished now, so thank you for bearing with me. I hope you find this enlightening and entertaining as well. So anyway, like I said, I began increasing the dosage again. Not to the point that I had been taking for those 12 years, but just maybe half, 1/3 to 1/2 of what I had been taking, and like I said, the withdrawal effects went away, so that was good. But the sleep apnea returned. So after a month of that, I decided to resume the weaning off process, and again, the sleep apnea started to disappear, with the lower dose. But again, the withdrawal stuff kicked in again. So, so you see what's going on here is, after 12 plus years of having this horrible drug in my system, screwing around with my brain biochemically, I mean, my brain had become addicted, and altered to, being so accustomed to getting its daily fix of this drug. Okay. So, and what happens is, once the level gets so low, see, my brain doesn't like that, from a biochemical perspective, and that's why it starts giving off all these weird withdrawal side effects. So anyway, I next saw the nurse practitioner back in July, and I informed her, of what the withdrawal process has been like. And interestingly enough, I told her, what I just said to you about the whole bit about my brain becoming biochemically addicted to this drug after so many years. And I said to her, this is why the withdrawal process is taking so long. And I said, I mean, this is essentially what a cocaine addict goes through when trying to come clean. She had no response to that. Apparently, she couldn't give a shit, right? So, anyway, and maybe a couple of interesting things that came out of that appointment. Now, she very much kept her mouth shut. Whereas back in April, okay, when I was giving her the 3rd degree for screwing up, she was, totally defensive, okay. But now, she was very much acting like the bureaucratic politician that she is. She did that back in April, and she was doing it again in July. And, I think she realized that, I basically had her back and her ass to the wall, that I had her cornered, and that she was guilty. So she was being very careful as to what to say or respond, okay? Now, like I said, a few other things that worthy of saying from that July appointment were, I said to her, I could be one of the few people in this country that has been on this drug for so long, because it came on the market in 96 and I started taking it in 99. So I mean, I kind of felt like I was in a, I kind of had the odd distinction of being on this medication for so long. So she responds by saying, "Oh, no, no, no." She's like, people are on these medications as long as necessary, if not indefinitely, for the rest of their lives. I mean, my jaw hit the floor when she said that. And then see, and again, now remember what I told you when I first met her in 95? She said I was severely under-medicated. See? And now here we are, 17 years later, saying, oh, people should stay on these as long as necessary, if not indefinitely, right? Well, see, the bottom line is, Catherine Blake is the legalized version of a drug pusher. Okay? And I am saying that, again, to enlighten people about her and to stay clear of her, especially when it comes to medications. Okay? She doesn't know what the hell she's doing. And I paid a terrible price. It was put through years of needless suffering. Okay? Again, because of her negligence, her incompetence, her failing memory, I mean, at that point in July, I mean, I was so disgusted with her. I mean, I could not even look at her in the eye, I mean, and also, I just a couple of other interesting side notes that I want to tell you about her that you may find interesting. At least I certainly did. During that July appointment, I gave her a check for my copay, and she responds by saying, she's like, oh, well, the amount, now my insurance is through Medicare, okay, and she's like, oh, well, my Medicare payments are being cut, they're being reduced, and she says, so that means your copay will also be going down. And I was like, what the fuck? I'm like, that makes no sense at all. I mean, just because her Medicare reimbursements are going down, that means my copay is going to be going down? I mean, look, I don't know anything about insurance billing, but I mean, come on. Anybody who has their head screwed on straight knows. I mean, that is not the way the insurance industry works, okay? I mean, if you're paying a copay, I mean, that's not going to be reduced, I mean, come on, And again, I mean, just another classic example how she has her head is stuck up her ass. Okay, and I could probably go on for a few hours to tell you the truth, but I'll spare you. I'll spare you that doing that deed. There's one other incident that I have got to tell you about that happened. This was back in 2006. As I recall, and we had always done our appointments would be 11 o'clock, but by the time she arrived at my residence, it would be roughly 11:15, 11:15, give or take 5 minutes, right? And so what happened was I had an appointment scheduled this one day. Like I said, this was back in 2006, and at approximately 10:50, okay, 10 minutes before 11, there was a knock on my door, and I'm thinking to myself, who could this be, right? I'm not expecting anyone right now, and I open the door, and sure enough, it's her, and I'm like, oh, you're here. You're early. And in a kind of like confused state, she said, I am? Huh? I am? Huh? And I'm like, yeah, it's only 10:50. She's like, oh, oh. And so I said, well, you're here now. You might as well come in. So she comes in. I'm getting myself together because I wasn't entirely ready since she was basically 25 minutes early. And so, she sits down. She's getting herself together, or as together as she can possibly be. And she's kind of like, looking at her watch, and she's like, and seriously, I'm not making this up, people. She starts uttering out these comments. She says, and these questions. She's like, how did I get here so early? She's like, what? And she's like, what? See, I still stutter on the words that begin with W. She said, what am I doing here? What am I doing here? Well, what am I doing here so early? How did this happen? And she was totally disoriented, And I'm thinking to myself, holy shit, what the hell is going on with this lady, And I mean, I don't know. Maybe she hadn't slept in a month. I mean, maybe she was, maybe she had been drinking. Maybe she was on illegal drugs. God only knows, I mean, like I said, she was totally spaced out and disoriented and in a complete state of disarray. And I didn't say anything, but again, I'm thinking to myself, my God, what is going on with her, And I mean, but again, see, this is just one of a myriad, a slew of weird problems and screw-ups and mistakes, and whenever there's a mistake or a problem, she'll always have a convenient excuse, I can remember, like, there'd be times I can remember back around like 2007, 2008. This happened like 2 or 3 times in a row where she was going to call in a prescription and she totally forgot about it. She didn't do it. She forgot. And I mean, it was becoming, like I said, like 2 or 3 appointments in a row. This was happening, And it's like, lady, would you get your friggin' act together? I mean, and sometimes, I remember one time in particular, she's like, oh, well, everybody makes mistakes. Oh, well, isn't that nice? Of course, the mistake she made, of never taking my complaints seriously and never listening to me, okay, that nearly cost me my life. I mean, think about this, people. I mean, that drug that I've spoken about here, I mean, like I said, it was shutting my respiratory system down while I was asleep. I mean, think about this. What would have happened had I not woken up? I would have died in my sleep. Okay? So I mean, this pretty much wraps it up. But I had to make this video because people need to know that this lady does not know what the fuck she is doing, okay? She's a combination nurse practitioner and psychotherapist. And actually, I think I might have her business card here, and this really cracks me up. It says individual, couple, and family therapy, and then it also says psychopharmacology consultations. Okay? So in other words, if you want some drugs, come to me. I'll only be all more happy to pump you up on as many drugs so you just rot away in bed for the rest of your life. That's precisely what happened with me. What a disgrace. Like I said earlier, her license should be revoked. It really should. She poses a threat to people she is prescribing drugs. Specifically the very dangerous ones, God help us all. I mean, and God help her, because, I mean, I got screwed firsthand. And in fact, you know what? I wasn't going to say this, but at this point, I kind of feel like, what the hell, why not? After I saw her in July, I actually consulted with an excellent malpractice attorney. Oh yeah. Because, I mean, the more I thought about this situation, this year, I mean, now, I am no legal expert, okay, and I don't know much about malpractice, okay, but in my opinion, I mean, what happened to me because of her, the whole incompetence issue and everything, and the negligence and the failing memory, never taking my complaints seriously, and now this year she's claiming that I never brought them to her attention, Well, in my opinion, this was screaming malpractice. Okay. So I consulted with this attorney. I sent him like a 10-page long letter describing the events and all the screw-ups, and all the things I've gone through with her. So he commended me on writing such an excellent, detailed letter. He said, but the bottom line is, he would not take the case. He wouldn't take it on. I mean, in a nutshell, the bottom line was that apparently I just didn't have enough strong enough tangible evidence to nail her on. So, I mean, needless to say, I was bullshit, and I was devastated by that. I mean, because I mean, again, I'm no legal expert, but I thought I had a pretty good case here, and this guy is at the top of his game, and so that was a major blow to me personally, and of course, what aggravates me more is that, I can't legally go after her. Okay? And there's a very, very real chance and possibility that she is going to come out of this situation without even a friggin' slap on the wrist. Now, I mean, that is not right. That is not right at all. So, I am going to wrap it up at that, people. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making it. Like I said, I mean, I just had to get this message out, because, I mean, people need to know, that this lady is not playing with a full deck. I mean, especially when it comes to prescribing, these potentially, toxic, dangerous, deadly medications. Okay? I mean, it's like, if there's a problem, she doesn't view it as her responsibility to do a damn thing about it. You're on your own. So, I don't know. I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and if you want to leave any comments below, please feel free to do so, and I will try to respond to them. Oh, by the way, I just wanted to say, I hope my vulgar language did not offend anybody here. But, please understand, when you've been screwed over this badly, I mean, there's a lot of anger and resentment, that just had to come out. And the best way to get this out of me is to get this out in the open, so the rest of the online universe can know, and know about her, Alrighty, people, so I will leave it at that, and I hope you enjoyed it, and like I said, feel free to leave any comments if you like, and bye for now. And if I have any future updates, I'll be sure to make another video, okay?